I have some pretty nice watches, and I'll admit that they probably get the most wrist time in my collection. It seems like a waste to let the others just sit there, but I'm no watch snob. Quartz, mechanical, German, Japanese, Swiss, expensive, less expensive, big brands, small, independent, even micro brands. I will give any watch the opportunity to make an impression on me. Fashion brands, of course, notwithstanding. And if I like it, I'll buy it. So while I understand there are enthusiasts out there who look down their noses at quartz, and people who think that Swiss watches are the only way to go, to you I say, you're the one missing out, not me. Because the Casio Oceanus OCW S100 is a fantastic watch, not just for the money, but outright. I started my watch collection journey about 6.5 years ago, shortly after I discovered the Urban Gentry's channel. Now back then, there weren't too many people reviewing and talking about watches, so I didn't get that many recommendations from YouTube about other channels. But one I did get pretty early on was a review about this specific Casio Oceanus from Nick Shabazz. I watched it, and I kind of liked it, but I wasn't sure about it. You see, Nick was a strong advocate for quartz to the near exclusion of mechanical watches. And at the time, I was fascinated by mechanical watches. Also, it was a JDM product, and I wasn't 100% confident that I could order it from Japan without some potential mishap. And back then, the idea of spending nearly $600 on a quartz was just beyond my ability to comprehend. Regardless of why, years passed, and I kind of forgot about the Oceanus. It didn't really come up for me until Nick did another full review of a different Oceanus, and I immediately became more interested. But also, again, the price of over $500 for quartz was a bit too much for me to bear. But you can't keep a good watch down. As time went by, more and more people started reviewing the Oceanus S100, and as I learned more about it, I couldn't resist, and last year I finally ended up pulling the trigger. I have to say I'm really happy that I did, and I think this might be a long-term keeper. So I spent about $450 on this watch. The effective price has gone down over the years. I think I may have actually bought it on Amazon. That's still a pretty penny for a quartz, but this watch is a bit of a spec monster with some top-grade finishing and a unique look that I really like. For starters, it's titanium, so it's super light. I really like that. Also, it has a layer of titanium carbide, or TIC, which is super hard and makes it very difficult to scratch, which is a good thing because this bezel is high polish. The dimensions are hard to quantify, but if you measure the bezel width, it's about 39 millimeters. If you measure the case with the bump at 9 o'clock side, it's more like 40. And if you include the crown, it's a little over 43 millimeters. It's just under 11 millimeters thick, and lug to lug it's about 46 millimeters, but if you include the solid center links, it gets to over 50 millimeters. And you really should be including the center links, because if you buy this watch, you're going to be wearing it on this bracelet, and only this bracelet. More on that in a little bit. It has a double-domed sapphire crystal, which seems to be pretty high quality because the clarity is just amazing, though it does smudge easily. And to be truthful, the high polish on the case and the bezel smudge easily as well. It's not a scratch magnet, it's a smudge magnet, and that is something I can live with. The case is very original and the finishing reminds me of Grand Seiko. There are some that say that the high polish is done in the same manner as Seiko's Zaratsu polishing, but I couldn't find anything to confirm it. But the reflective qualities of the finishing are similarly distortion-free in the same way that Grand Seiko's are. Regardless of how this was done, this external finishing competes well with brands that are much more expensive, in titanium no less, and a TIC-coated titanium, so the polish stays nice. The bracelet is titanium and it's pretty scratch resistant as well, with a twin trigger clasp that's pretty basic, but it does have 2 micro adjusts, which is better than my Grand Seiko and what Omega gives you when you get an Aquaterra. Now all of that's nice, but the thing that really sets the Oceanus apart is its judicious use of technology. As we all know, watches are fundamentally unnecessary. Our cell phones are constantly in communication with towers, so it's easy for us to know exactly what time it is when we want to. I don't wear watches for their accuracy. I tend to wear them because I fall in love with them. But the Oceanus has smartphone level accuracy. Actually, it might be better. The tough movement. And it is tough, by the way. This movement is found in some of the other G-Shocks out there, is the Casio caliber 5235. And while that should be good enough right there, the watch is radio controlled to match up with a satellite that keeps the movement informed with daily updates from an atomic timekeeping device. Now that's technology for you. I spent nearly $4,000 on a super accurate Grand Seiko quartz, and as accurate as it is, technically the Oceanus keeps better time. Anyway, I don't wear or own a smartwatch, and I have little to no interest. So I tend to be a bit wary of watches that rely too heavily on technology, because I feel like they start to lose their charm if they're too technology heavy. And to be truthful, the Oceanus stretches my tolerance limit for that kind of technology, but I suppose maybe it is a good idea to have at least one watch like that. The watch has an outer chapter ring with codes for different cities and their time zones, and it's very easy to adjust the time for travel. And even though the seconds hand comes to a stop while you're adjusting the watch, the movement never stops keeping track of the passing time, and the seconds hand reverts back to the correct time when you're done. Lastly, you can set the date, and it's a perpetual calendar that keeps track of everything, including leap years and daylight savings. Also, the watch is solar powered. There's no indication of this on the dial, it's well hidden, but the capacitor, or the battery, has a 7-month life when fully charged. But the watch will go into hibernation mode if not worn or exposed to light, and that can last a couple years. Put it in a box, forget about it for a year, pull it back out, and within 24 hours it will adjust to the atomic clock's time while keeping track of daylight savings and leap years. It really is the ultimate set it and forget it watch. But none of this really means that much if you don't like the watch. But I do. I like the case and the bezel, the finishing is superb, the crown has an embossed logo, and I really like the dial. Blue is Casio's corporate color, and this dial has quite a bit of it. It also has a ring of blue that aligns with the crystal in such a way that it makes the crystal look blue. It kind of reminds me of a Rolex Milgauss with its green sapphire crystal. The fundamental difference being that the Milgauss actually has a colored crystal and the Oceanus is just mimicking it. Still, it's a nice touch and I really like it. So as for negatives, no watch is without sin, and the Oceanus is no different. There are a few things that I don't love. First of all, the text on the dial that reads tough movement doesn't look great to me, and I don't understand the point of the drilled lugs whatsoever. Why is that? Because it's an integrated bracelet. That's the reason I didn't bother mentioning the lug width when I was going over the dimensions. This is the bracelet it comes with, and unless you're going to put it on a strap and then accurately cut to fit that strap, this is the only bracelet you'll be wearing. It's 21 millimeters, by the way, the lug width, but that doesn't really matter now, does it? I'd love to see this watch on some different strap options, but that's not gonna happen, and that's a bit of a shame. So there you have it, the Casio Oceanus OCW S100. Yes, there are other Oceanuses out there that are worth taking a look at, but this is the one that I have and it hasn't let me down. There are days when I'm in a hurry and I don't have time to set my watch before I go. And like I mentioned, this is the ultimate set it and forget it watch, so I end up wearing it maybe once every couple of weeks. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but I only have 2 wrists, over 20 watches, and I don't want to Schwarzkopf in public. Oh, and real quick, the Oceanus is far from being a new watch. It's been out for about a decade, and the effective price has been dropping. Just the other day, I found this exact model on Amazon for $363 US. So it's an even bigger value play than before. So if you're looking for a good yet unique looking watch that is super durable, super accurate, and pretty darn affordable, you cannot go wrong by looking at the Casio Oceanus OCW S100. Hi guys. If you're new here and you're enjoying the content, then I encourage you to hit that subscribe button so you know when I post my next video. In the meantime, I do have a rapidly growing library, and I picked out some other similar content over here to keep you busy until I post the next one. But as always, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video.